For years, the YWCA of Princeton gave away the Pearl Bates Scholarship Fund. But who exactly was Pearl Bates, and who was she in the Princeton community? Miss Bates was a resident of Princeton who lived on Quarry Street. During her years, she worked at ETS as a secretary, and she was also very active in the Princeton church community. I sat down with Miss Shirley Satterfield for more information and her reflections on growing up with Miss Bates.
I grew up at a time when Princeton was segregated, and I remember that we all went to what was considered the colored Y, because the Y was segregated just as the schools were. And Miss Bates was very prominent in the colored Y. We had leaders who were secretaries instead of executive directors. And Miss Bates worked closely with the secretaries of the Y. There were several through the years. And she was very much interested in the welfare of children. She lived on Quarry Street, and in fact, she lived in the biggest single house on Quarry Street with her husband. I remember her husband, Mr. Sherman Bates. She was a very dear friend of our family's. And my uncle, Brian Van Sant Moore, who was a community leader and also a lawyer, lived across the street, actually in the house where I'm living now. And they were very dear friends. They would always meet to have meetings to talk about what's going on in Princeton, to talk about world affairs, and to have a lot of parties. There were a lot of groups of married people who had parties and events. And I remember her, I remember her as being tall and very thin. And I remember her coming to the house, but I don't remember any conversations with her. I know she went to to Mount Pisgah AME Church, AME African Methodist Episcopal, and which is the oldest African American church of the 4 churches in Princeton.
After her sudden death, Mrs. Bates' co-workers decided to start the Pearl Bates Scholarship Fund at the YWCA of Princeton in her honor.
I didn't know anything about Pearl Bates. I'm a little ashamed to say, actually, because she began working at ETS in 1949. That was a long time ago, and remained an active employee until her sudden death in 1963. So when I think about the year in which she was hired, she had to have been one of the first African American, well, one of the first, not just women, but one of the first African Americans, period, to have been hired by ETS. You know, as an African American woman who works at ETS, who's been a long-time employee, I feel like Pearl and other people like her, but we're talking about Pearl, paved the way for somebody like me to even work at an organization like ETS. So I am in her debt, for sure. And the other thing I think about when I think about her is that, you know, when we talk about women of color and women of color leading change and just women leading change, diversity, inclusion, before those words, those terms were even part of our lexicon, she was doing that. She was doing that at a time when it must have been very difficult. When you think about that period in our nation and the segregation that existed in our own community here, I would imagine her to be a very courageous woman, someone who was so determined to help her community and to do that against tremendous odds. So I just feel a special kinship with her.
Princeton being the town in which it is, just a historic town in general, I didn't really realize we had such a prominent African-American woman with that much history and prestige in this community. So when I was approached for PNC to participate, I said absolutely, because PNC is a great supporter of women of diversity, and I'm proud to work there myself as well. Being a woman of color and understanding the struggles and the stripes and the victories we've made, why not represent PNC in alignment with the YWCA this year? When I think of women of color and leading change, it's a victory. It's a victory for myself, my mother, my grandmother, and all my predecessors, as well as men, right? We're all products of background and each victory I have represents all the struggles my family's made. When I look at other young African American women coming up, I'm so proud. I look at the strides. I come from a very small town in Alabama, and I look at each generation and the progress that they've made, and it makes me proud. So as I sit here in Princeton and we have all this opportunity, I'm a part of it.
It is awe-inspiring to know how many lives this fund has impacted, especially the YW's very own Cynthia Costello.
As I may have mentioned, I was a resident of the Dunham Hall of the YWCA in Mercer County. I gradually started volunteering my time. Then the YWCA asked me to come aboard to help out as an employee, working with the after-school summer camp and the after-school program, and the summer camp program. Also, I was also participating at the front desk and participating with the galas and the other organizations that the YWCA has been given. The YWCA really helped me out a lot. With me going to a doctor's appointment and went for a cancer screening, a mammogram. At that moment, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was in denial. The YWCA did an intervention on me. They actually called the Breast Cancer Resource Center of the YWCA of Princeton to sit and talk with me about how they are there to help me. And they helped me. I'm glad I am a cancer survivor, and I said I did it.
Along with the YW's regular programs, the fund also provides for ESL training courses.
Hello, my name is Irma Noh. I am studying English in ESL Program. It's a great program. I am from Guatemala. I study English because it's very important for me, communication. To talk in English is means for me communication with my coworker, with my boss, with my daughter teacher, and that's why I am very happy and grateful for the opportunity to study in this program.
My name is Luciane Steiner. I am Brazilian. I haven't been here 2 years ago, and I started the class last summer. I take a class because English is it's so important for communication, for work, and take new friends. For example,
I've been here as a student for a long time, and I'm very, very happy to receive this. This is something that I appreciate because it's very important for me.
What amazing work this scholarship has done. All started by one woman who wanted to empower her community. We can all take a page out of Miss Bates' book. And hopefully one day, we too can be Pearl Bates.
I am chair and president of the Album Family Foundation, who has been supportive for the last number of years of the Y and the Pearl Bates Foundation. I'm asking everyone here today to come with us, to join with us, to help the community, to help the families, and to help the Y in supporting a great program with great families, great teachers, and making it stronger for all.